Hello, everyone, and welcome to our HNR radio podcast. Thank you for joining us. And today I have a real treat, at least in my opinion, it's a real treat. I am with Lisa Murphy, who is a member of our collection at Forsyth office. And speaking of that, if you have not had an opportunity to come up here and check out this office, you really ought to do yourself a favor and come take a look. It is spectacular. A great location here in the collection at Forsyth and just a beautiful office. So if you're ever up this way showing clients or need to pop in and use any of the resources, please do. I know they would welcome you with open arms. But anyway, Lisa, thank you for joining us today. And after my plug of the office here, I got a lot of stuff that I want to cover with you. And I think that the audience is going to find our conversation pretty fascinating and amazing. But I don't want to steal your thunder, but just tell us a little bit about you, how long you've been with Harry Norman, what you did before you got into real estate, maybe kind of what was the reasons why you decided to get into real estate, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, great. Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So I grew up in New England, in Connecticut, and I was working in New York City. Pretty much straight out of college. I was with a marketing firm up there and got an offer probably about 6 months into my career to move down to Atlanta and work for the client that I was actually working for at my big client in the marketing firm at the time.
Cool.
And so I headed down to Atlanta and really for 20 years worked in client services for marketing firms. I was with one firm, Coverdell, that was actually started by Senator Coverdell. And I was with them for about the first 12 years that I was here in Atlanta and just, started at the bottom, moved up in the ranks, eventually ran client services for the marketing firm. And then one of our competitors, as can happen, hired me away. And I was with them for the last portion of my career. And then I got married in 2015, and my husband and I built a new house.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we were in the house for about 3 months when it hit me that I wasn't so sure that I wanted to work anymore. And surprisingly, my husband was on board with it. He said, not a lot of women give their wives 20 years of work and give their husbands 20 years of work.
Right.
And he was perfectly supportive of the idea. But, we had done this needs assessment, early back in my career, where, you go through a series of questions and it tells you about the various needs that we have as individuals. And my number one need is to work.
Wow. So you guys did this together as a couple or?
I had done it in my career. Of course, as you do, once you do one of these tests at work, you immediately go home and make your spouse do it.
Yep.
My husband has a need to perform, which is probably why he's a 3-time Ironman.
Wow.
I know that I have this innate need to work. So as much as this idea of, I think I just had gotten caught up in the house and really wanted to start decorating it.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, were you engaged in getting married while the house was being built? No. Were you juggling both of those things?
No, thank goodness. No,
right.
We got married and then about a year later bought the land to build on. So so I just. While all of this is happening on a much less positive note, I have a sister that is exactly a year older than me, almost to the day, and she got diagnosed with cancer.
Okay.
And it was stage 4 cancer. And one of the things that was really difficult is that my job, I was traveling a lot. I was constantly, I was a workaholic. So I was working tons of hours, and she lives in Pennsylvania, and I just felt like I couldn't get to her when I needed to get to her. Mm-hmm. When she was diagnosed, she was given 6 months to a year. In March, we will have had her here for 3 years, so it's a pretty exciting story.
Wow, that's amazing.
Amazing. But I knew I wanted to spend more time with her. I knew I kind of was done with the full, I can't even say 9 to 5 because it would have been great. Maybe it would have worked if it was 9 to 5, but that's not what I was doing. And so just before the holidays in 2017, I decided that I was going to take a break and just take some time to figure out what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And I was actually having a conversation with my sister, and I threw out there, one of the things I'm entertaining is getting into real estate. I loved the process of purchasing the land. I've always, I've bought and sold a few homes. And of course, we all know that makes you an expert. So I was pretty certain that I was already an expert in real estate. And so my sister said to me, that was always a dream of mine. And I think it was the combination of her being really sick and me having this idea and her being so supportive of it. We're very, very close. And I ran the idea by my husband, and he thought it was the greatest idea ever. He just thought it was fabulous. And so then, typical me, I signed up like the next day for the real estate course. I did it with Barney Fletcher. And so I took the course in March, and I went and interviewed 3 firms that I had, actually 2, and us and then our affiliate, Berkshire Hathaway.
Our kissing cousin over there.
Kissing cousin over there. Yeah. And then, of course, everybody had said to me, there are a couple more big players that I feel like you need to at least know that you feel comfortable shutting the door on. But before I even finished my real estate course, I mean, knowing me, it may have even been before I started it, I had met Karen Pate and had said, Harry Norman is definitely it for me. So I remember I'm in real estate school and I'm recruiting people for Harry Norman.
That's awesome.
Already, was immediately like, oh no, I'm going to this great firm and you guys need to look at it. And so yeah, I mean, the day that it took me a moment to take my test because the school sent over my exam and all my credentials to GREC with the wrong social security number.
Okay.
And especially that time of year, it can take forever to get a test date. But I took the test, passed on the first try, and I think I literally went that afternoon and signed with Karen and joined Harry Norman.
That's awesome. That's great.
Why I'm here. Yeah.
There you go. I love it. So tell me a little bit about the marketing that you did with this consulting. I'm curious to hear about that and maybe how you've parlayed some of that experience into the real estate.
Definitely, and the client services. I think that's part of what made me know, Todd, that real estate would be such an easy transition, as I had spent 20 years in client services. People used to ask what I did, and I said that I shook hands and kissed babies, which is pretty much what we do as real estate agents too.
Of course, yeah.
So I had started with a marketing firm that was a direct mail marketing firm, believe it or not, which is actually I think it's coming back around like everything does, like high-rise jeans, right? But basically, we were a direct mail marketing firm. I mean, my first client was J. Crew, and they used to buy and sell lists from us, and I was what was called a list broker.
Okay.
And I would research what lists were available on the market that had audiences similar and make recommendations on lists they needed to purchase, and they would use it for their campaigns. And that led to our client in Atlanta was actually an insurance company, and I was working on some direct mail campaigns for them, which is how I got into the firm in Atlanta. So really, I think that the skills that I learned, I mean, we put together marketing campaigns, and by the time I got to Atlanta, it was all medians. It wasn't just direct mail. So we were doing online campaigns, we were doing telemarketing campaigns, and I just think, yes, that background of marketing, I mean, it's helped me immensely in, we're small business owners ourselves as real estate agents, and it's just completely helped me in, for a moment, never hesitating to spend money on marketing, knowing that I need to put dollars there, that I need to have a presence,
and be patient, which, we're going to talk about patience here in a minute. I don't want to jump the gun, but you probably learned a lot of, because like in that kind of business, direct mail, you just don't mail something once and expect there to be a windfall of business, right? It's got to be repetitive, consistent, over and over and over.
Absolutely.
And again, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here and ruin the surprise, but that's a lot, I think you probably would say has contributed to your success.
Yes.
It's just that stay the course.
Yes.
Don't give up on the process.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think, so let's say I got my license at the very end of April, and maybe 30 days later, Harry Norman had announced that they were doing this ninja installation. And and maybe that's why I love marketing. I'm very much a procedures and a routine person. And so I don't have a problem. By nature, I stay the course because I'm one that, the way I run my day, the way I run, my poor husband, the way I run everything, the way I run our closets. There's a routine and a procedure to everything.
Sure.
And so I do think that just knowing that these marketing efforts that I was putting forth. And even, so I didn't grow up here. I mean, I've been here since 2000, but I don't have any children, and I don't, so, a lot of that innately built-in sphere of influence that you have,
Right.
It doesn't exist for me. I live up and coming now. When I was working, pretty much my 20 years in client services was spent down in
Atlanta,
in Atlanta,
uh-huh.
In Midtown. And so even where my life is now is so different from, the life that I had back then. And I focus on Forsyth. I don't really have much of an interest in spending my day in a car driving downtown.
Sure.
So I do think that is a huge part of, in the beginning it was rough for me. I mean,
So you get your license in March.
Mm-hmm.
Our first installation, which occurred 2 years ago,
Yep. July
comes up.
Yep.
And I think I know the answer to the question, but I'm gonna ask it so the audience can hear it. We have a lot of new people getting into the business all the time, especially in this market.
Yes.
What was it that caused you to say to yourself, you know what? As a new person, a lot of people get in, they don't have a lot of money.
Uh-huh.
Okay?
Yeah.
And a $750 investment, it's not a small chunk of change.
No.
So what was it that had you convinced that as a new person, this was an important step for me to take to kind of propel my career and make me get off on the right step?
Sure. I think it was twofold. I think I don't like not being good at things. And it took me maybe 3 weeks of having my license to realize that I really had no idea how to run a real estate business.
Got the license to kill, but I don't know.
What do you do with it? And, Harry Norman gives you great resources that you can take advantage of, but we definitely aren't a firm that, we don't hand out leads, and we don't. And so really, it's
up to you to create the business.
Create your business.
Yeah.
So I really quickly realized, gosh, I'm not exactly certain that I know how to create my business. Everyone, I had sat down with probably 10 people that I knew that were in the industry even before I got my license, just to make sure that it was something that I felt I could succeed at.
Mm-hmm.
But really, everyone said to me, it's not going to be easy. You didn't grow up here. A lot of us have people that we can call on, or, also you've spent 20 years. I was Lisa, to my friends, to my sphere of influence, I was Lisa, the marketing person that was never home because she was traveling all the time. And so they certainly didn't see me as a real estate expert, as a, and everyone has their own real estate expert.
Sure.
So I knew that there was opinions that I was going to have to change. And I just felt like if I don't take this, I didn't feel like it was an option. I mean, if I didn't take the Ninja installation, I don't think I knew how to succeed. In my mind, it was going to be the answer.
So that's interesting. A career professional, 20 years, great success in another industry, marketing, some similarities that maybe we'll talk about in a little bit. But you're coming out of that. I bet you probably had some preconceived notions of this is going to be easy.
Sure, not easy, because everyone that I talked to warned me it's not easy.
Okay.
But I'm the kind of person that's like, well, I'll just work hard and get it done.
Got it. So, if somebody were to ask you, though, absolutely probably one of the best decisions that you made in terms of attending the Ninja installation and kind of setting a foundation for...
Without a doubt. It changed my real estate career. I mean, I don't... I think that it's like anything. When you go to real estate school, they're teaching you what you need to know to pass a test.
Right.
I mean, that's really what they're teaching you.
That's it.
They're not teaching you what you need and the routines and the procedures that you can establish to be successful. And I think that's what Ninja did, is it really showed me, you get these catchphrases that you hear people say, like, you have to work your sphere of influence. Well, what does that mean? You have to work your sphere of influence. I feel like I've spent 20 years in client services. My life is working a sphere of influence. Like, I don't know how to go to the grocery store without trying to win someone over. I'm just that person. So I just feel like it kind of was this big, it took like the, question mark out of the box.
Yeah.
It just made me kind of give me what I needed in order to be able to be successful.
Gotcha. Okay, so, it was a big risk for us because it was the first time that we had introduced the installation, the program to the company. Of course, Emily and I had gone to audit the class, and we both felt like we were very confident that we felt like it would be something that would resonate well with the group. But we didn't know going into that first time kind of how everybody would respond and react. So I'm curious. I mean, we've got about 300 plus ninjas now in our company. So a lot of people listening maybe are going to be familiar with what that, going through that is like, and then afterwards and that kind of thing. But I'm just curious, as you were sitting there for those 4 days, were there a couple things that just kind of like clicked with you, resonated with you, were aha moments, or you were just like, you know what, this is all starting to kind of maybe put the jigsaw puzzle together a little bit clearer for me?
Yes, and I think, like I said, I'm a routine and procedures person, and I don't even think that I knew how to successfully establish my day and what my day should look like. And I think that the obvious parts, to me, the obvious parts of Ninja were, discussing that you're going to be interacting with people, and those people all have personalities, and, 20 years in client services, I got that part of it. But I think I remember it was probably, I remember, so, we had Dawn as our instructor, and Dawn was telling us about doing real estate reviews.
Uh-huh.
And they made me really uncomfortable. The idea made me really, really, really uncomfortable.
You're not alone,
because,
Lisa.
yes. I felt like he was telling us to be a salesman and to give people something that they didn't want. And I also know that people are funny about money. And so all of a sudden I was like, gosh, I don't know if, Sally is going to want me to hand her this real estate review that shows that I know what her home is worth and I know how much equity she has in her home. And I mean, that idea made me really uncomfortable. And I think that Don said something to the effect of, you really have to take the position in all of this, like you're doing something to help someone, and that you're just trying to help them and you're not trying to get anything back for it. You can't think of it like that. And he even, I think I even raised my hand and said, I got to tell you, I'm never doing this. Like, this is uncomfortable. This is salesy. This is 95% of why I chose Harry Norman and not some of the other firms. And Don said, well, because you're looking at it like, through the long lens. You're looking at it like you're trying to get them to list with you, and you're not. You are giving them information. You're establishing yourself as a real estate expert. You are, helping them. And he also said something that has stuck with me so much throughout my career, as he said, you absolutely have to separate yourself from what the end result is. You can't get committed to what you want the end result to be.
I love that. And that's something else. Then we've got an installation going on right now as we speak. And I was down there yesterday, and Don is our instructor. Yep. He's our guy. Yeah. He helped co-create the program actually. And he always says something too, and he's consistent in his delivery of the message is, as salespeople, a lot of us are focused on us instead of them.
Yes.
And he's always saying, the minute you start thinking about yourself is where you get caught in that trap of, okay, this is going to feel salesy. Yes. This is going to feel like contrived, or like I'm just trying to get them to do a deal with me. But if you'll turn that around and make all of your efforts about what can I do to help them, make it about them, all of a sudden it lifts that burden. It lifts that weight off of that feeling of, this, they're going to see through this charade of what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah.
So,
and I think, it's funny, like I get it in life. My faith is very important to me. And, I think in life as living as a Christian, I try really hard to think of it's not about me, it's about others. But when you get into something like sales, well, of course it's about you. So it's hard to remember that, some of those life lessons that we know of to be so true need to be applied to our careers as well.
Yeah, too. And I thought another thing that was great that I learned from Ninja was the difference between the golden rule and the platinum rule. You remember talking about that? And it's the golden rule is I'll have you do unto others as you have them do unto yourself. And the other is have them you want to do unto others as they would like to have done to them.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yes.
And so that was kind of like an aha too. It was like, I get that, you know? And I've sat through now, gosh, 6 installations.
Okay.
And the thing I love about it is the reminders,
Yes.
we all need those reminders.
Yes.
But I still learn something new every time I go.
Absolutely.
So that's the cool thing. Well, tell me a little bit more about your just overall experience there. It sounds like you're a big systems processes person.
Yes.
Did you walk away with some real good tools and things that you could really put into action immediately?
Absolutely. I mean, so, the ninja rituals are, I was a huge handwritten note person anyway. That was just a part of who I was. But the other ninja rituals, really focusing on affirmations, every morning I wake up, I write out my gratitudes. Still a year and a half later.
That's amazing.
Write out my gratitudes, write out my daily affirmation, write my 2 handwritten notes, go over my warm list, my hot list. And there are constantly things, I've got my rituals down and I'm such a routine person that it's, I wake up and I do this and then I do this. And you can lose authenticity in that if you make it too much of this just needs to get done.
Right.
And there definitely were times where for a week I had to step away because it was becoming that. It was...
You were just like a robot.
It was a checklist.
Going through the motions.
And it wasn't, did you think of your warm and hot list? But then there are some things that really, one of the things that has gotten me back to really kind of reviving my business or just mixing it up a little bit is taking your database and re-ranking it every once in a while. And so I'll find that when I'm in a rut, I'll go through my database and kind of look, and life changes cause those A's to become C's. Or, I told you the story about how I had a client and had spent a couple of months working with them at the end of the year, and we were going to list, and they were going to upgrade, and so I was helping them on both sides of the transaction, and the husband lost his job, and we had to pull the house off the market, and those things can happen that, and we all have those things happening all the time that cause us to really evaluate our database and re-rank it and kind of figure out where we need to be spending our time. And those ones that may have been A's 6 months ago had something happen in their life, or that whatever, and they're no longer an A.
I love your mindset approach to that, because a lot of people, having done this for 23 years now, sales and managing broker and all that good stuff, I see a lot of people, they have that exact same thing happen to them. They've invested a lot of time, resources, energy, and it could be, I think in this case, you were telling me it was well over $1 million after both sides of the transaction were done. And to have something like that happen, all of a sudden, and the wind taken out of their sails, it takes them 6 weeks, 6 months sometimes to recover, because they're just so overcome with, oh my God, I can't believe this has happened. But you in turn are like, you know what? Just going to reshift, going to reevaluate, going to go back, look through, and see who's the next person I can help. And mindset is so much a big part of the ninja.
No doubt. And that's, I said what Don said about how you have to separate yourself from the end result. So I took my ninja principles. I had already, I'd established a great relationship with these folks, but probably about a week after they delivered the news, I just sent them a handwritten note saying, that they were in my thoughts and that I was really hoping for a positive outcome for them. And, the wife shot me a text when she got the note and said, you have to know that we are going to tell everyone and anyone that will listen about you until we're ready to buy, and then we'll get to use you ourselves.
Yep.
And so you just have to remember that even those, it definitely, of course, I had my moment of a pity party where I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I literally found out, I had an agent caravan on Tuesday, found out on Friday. But once you get over that and you remember that it's not about you, you can take it and, I was like, okay, well, how do I salvage this at all?
Yeah.
And it's to not stop being invested in them, to not, that's going to, hopefully will speak volumes about, we do business, and Don said this 1,000 times, and we all know this, but business is relationships. And I think for me, one of the things that was hardest is that there was all this talk of sphere of influence, and there's all this talk about how you need to work your sphere of influence, and truthfully, none of my business has come from my sphere of influence.
Is that right?
None of it. It has come from, and I'm not saying that I don't think that can work, but I'm in a unique situation, right? I don't have children. I didn't grow up here, and I was known as a very different Lisa, and tried to rebrand myself, and so I did know from my marketing background that it was going to take a moment to get people to think of me as Lisa, the real estate agent.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because that was my experience too when I got into the business. Is I would say probably too my first couple of years that the people that I helped were people that I did not know. It was people where I either through sitting in open houses or helping out another agent in the office, picking things up on desk duty. And it wasn't until I think I demonstrated a track record of success that my sphere, that my friends started to reach out and say, okay, this isn't going to just be a hobby for Todd. I think he's going to take this serious. And I share that with a lot of agents who get into the business. Say, don't get disappointed when your friends are your biggest supporters. Yeah, you'd be great at real estate, get in it, go do it. And then all of a sudden it's like you look around and it's like crickets, because nobody else wants to, and you've got to really, and you mentioned too, everybody knew you from the past life as Lisa the marketer. Well, she's great at that, but can she be great at real estate? So tell me a little bit more about, just kind of your experience with that and how you bridge that gap.
Yeah, well, another thing that I picked up from Ninja is just the importance of becoming the go-to real estate expert for people. And so I realized, I live in a great subdivision that's really small, and it's a great, for Cumming, it's probably a little high for a price point, but it's a great price point. And so I have poured into marketing in my subdivision, and I think done it with the intent of just becoming the real estate expert. I constantly putting packets together of information on, twice a year since I got my license, I've giving them updates on here's what's happening in our neighborhood. This is what the stats are. This is what things are selling for. These are the trends that we're seeing. Homes that were on the market X amount of days had this, this, and this, whereas the ones that sold quickly fell into this category. And so I think one of the things that I realized is that I was going to have to spend a lot of time and a lot of money investing in becoming that real estate expert and really putting myself out there. And that, yes, in turn, that would, what's happened is my original business really was picked up from sitting on desk duty. And then, those clients believed in me as a real estate expert and talked to other people about me. And eventually I know that it's going to catch on in my own sphere of influence, but I just know that it is going to take time. I was that same person. I had friends that were in real estate, but that's not who I used to buy and sell my houses. I used who I saw as the expert. Sure. As much as I liked them, I used so I just think that you have to be comfortable with knowing that, that's where, and I would say that to somebody that was just starting out, is knowing that it doesn't matter how much people like you or how good of a person you are, like that. People are funny about money, and they're going to put their money where they feel like there's the knowledge and the expertise to feel comfortable with that decision. Right. Yeah. Having that trust as a friend is only a part of it. It is a part of it. Yes. For sure. Yes. Because in Ninja too, we kind of talk about how there needs to be a mix of personal and professional or credibility. Like your market, like summaries are doing every 6 months. A blend of that, plus let's get to know who Lisa is a little bit. Because again, people want to have that blend and that kind of thing. And what it sounds like to me too is, like, as far as your geographic farming goes, you're not just sending like the recipe of the month postcard out. You are doing a lot of different things to kind of establish yourself in your community as that market expert. Yep. All right, we are going to take a quick break here. And when we come back, Lisa, I'd love to talk about the whole notion of not falling to the victim mindset, the value of maybe coming into the office, and touch on what's going on, what you're kind of feeling here in the Forsyth market. And we'll cover a whole bunch more. So please stay with us, and we will be back momentarily.